Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a first impressions to do for you on this beast of a knife. If you watched my unboxing, you'll see that I was not expecting this knife to come from Kyle at DTOM Knives and Gear. He sent this in just kind of as a surprise, but it came at an opportune time because I had recently been wanting to revisit this knife. I've actually owned one of these before, so Kyle will be linked down in the description below. Check him out if you haven't. He's the best. If you like my stuff, you're going to like Kyle's stuff. Anyway, this is his personal Kizer Sheepdog, which was modified by Scott from Big Bore Knife and Gear. I think. I still need to confirm that with Kyle, but I'm like 98% certain that's who did this mod work. So this has, I'm not sure what Scott calls it. It gets called kind of different things from different places. My buddy Kyle, who was doing this for a long time before I started seeing a lot of people doing it, he would call it lightning strike anno. I think it looks pretty cool. It's not totally my style, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I'm not into Damascus when it's multicolored and things that are like purple and blue and bronze all mixed together. It looks kind of like an oil spill to me, and I'm just not big on it. But I appreciate the like craftsmanship of it, especially this one. He seems to have like polished the scales before anodizing them like that, and just a really cool thing. So this Kizer Sheepdog is the typical, like this is the one that there was when the Sheepdog came out. When I was starting to collect knives, this knife was actually kind of hot, and that's part of why I got one. And it's titanium frame lock, titanium scales on both sides, titanium clip. It's got a stainless steel insert, S35VN blade steel, and it's just a beast of a blade. That is a lot of S35VN, and not only is it a big, tall, kind of cleaver, sheep's foot thing going on, but it is pretty thick blade stock as well. This is a robust knife, partially because of all that weight, and also just because it's smooth and on bearings. Stupid drop shutty, very smooth knife, and the ergos actually work for me quite well on this knife. I find that I like the handle shape here. But yeah, so those are our ingredients: titanium, S35VN, titanium clip, a couple of barrel spacers, lock bar insert. It's a pretty standard stuff in this day and age. But yeah, this one, I don't know. I got one of these knives, like I said, a long time ago. And I had it probably for a couple of weeks. Back then I wasn't moving knives oftentimes as quickly as I do now. But I had kind of built it up in my head, and then I got one, and I liked it. I found that it was cool, and I appreciated some things about it, certainly. But when I put it in pocket and carried it, it's a heavy knife. And I hadn't had many titanium frame locks up to that point, and it just felt big and clunky, and especially with how heavy this blade is, it wasn't totally my thing at the time. And part of that was probably where my tastes were. Part of that was also just what I'd experienced thus far. It's funny because my definition of what like a grail was at the time, like the knives I was after that I wasn't willing to spend the money on yet, were, I don't know, $300. And this is, I think, about a $200 knife. Might have been a little more than that at the time. I don't know exactly what these go for, but I remember having it and not being willing to cut with it because it seemed too nice to me. Because it was a titanium frame lock with S35VN, and it was really good looking. And it's funny because now, like a lot of my user knives, and not to like say this as a flex, but a lot of the knives that I use hard and kind of are in like my beater range are knives that would be in this price point. And so if I got one of these now because I loved it and wanted to use it, I would have no issues using a knife of this caliber for actual use. Heck, I use my Arius now, hard. So I've wanted to check it out again with all of that in mind, because I've evolved in the hobby, and I'm sure I will continue to evolve. The things that are like my tastes right now, in 6 months or a year or a couple of years, could be 180 degrees different. Maybe 2 years from now, I'm all about only tactical knives that are heavy and thick behind the edge and stabby, and like right now that's not really my thing, but maybe it will be. And so I wanted to come back to this where I am now, And so it's interesting that without even mentioning it to Kyle, this just happens to be the knife that he tossed in. But so far, I've had this knife in pocket realistically about a half a day. Yeah, I carried it, I don't know, for 8 hours. And I did a little bit of cutting with it. I had already cut a little bit with the one I had before, but that was a long time ago. Memory's a funny thing. So I've done just a little bit of light cutting with it. I'll do some more for sure by the time I'm ready to do a full review. But I've had it in pocket. It's still heavy. I still feel it in pocket. It's nice and round, and nothing about it is like overly harsh in pocket, but it's just a heavy knife. And the blade is what's to blame for that, 100%. This blade is where like all of the heaviness is coming from, especially because these handles are even milled out on this side. And I mean, you can feel it when you hold it. There's just a lot up there. So yeah, my first impressions are kind of what I remember of it. That it's heavy, it's kind of pretty, it's a lot of fun to play with. The action is addictive because that blade, I mean, it's just a guillotine coming out of there. The detent feels kind of soft to me. I don't remember if it was this soft or not. I really don't. It could likely have been, but I find I kind of like to push button it. It works as well to light switch it, but I feel like I get a better deployment if I kind of push it in. I don't know. It's been interesting thus far, and it's funny to me that he sent this because I'm enjoying kind of going down memory lane and seeing if I was dumb back then or if I was kind of right all along. I don't know. Time will tell. But I'm going to keep using and carrying this one. This is probably a less defined first impressions than I typically do, but I'm a little bit undefined on this one, if I'm being totally honest. And so there will be more to come. There will be a full review on it, and hopefully by that time I'll have kind of a defined, like, now I like this knife, or I still don't like this knife. We will see. Don't like is the wrong thing. I liked it even the first time that I sold it. I just found that it was outside of what I actually wanted in a knife. And so I don't think I even sold it. I think I traded it. What did I trade that for? It might have been my Yojimbo 2, which I ended up having for so long. I just barely traded the Yojimbo 2 away years later. So if I did, then that was the right call because I liked the Yojimbo 2 more than I like this, at least for a long time. We'll see. I'll try to figure that out. But yeah, I doubt I'm going to find that I don't like this knife. I may find that it's still not in my preferences. So, time will tell. I'll show you guys when we get there. But thanks for checking it out with me, and thanks for sending it, Kyle. I appreciate it, buddy. And yeah, look forward to the full review. I am. I'm intrigued to see where I end up because I honestly don't know. All right, thanks, guys.